Got it. All right. Fair enough.
Hey guys, we are live. I am here with Markus Wettstein, MD, endocrinologist, my buddy, and I am Coach Peggy Willms. And we are so excited because we are launching a book together. Finally, after all these years, we are launching a book and we are looking for you, 30 of you, to be contributing authors, contributing storytellers to this book. So we just thought tonight we're going to just chit chat. You know me, I always have my coffee mug. Woo! I always have my coffee mug. And we're just going to chat about how we met each other, kind of who we are, and what this book is about, and why we want you to tell your story.
Well, hello. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again. Do you like my backdrop of all of these books that have no titles on them?
That's the idea, you know. We need authors. These pages need to be filled. That's
these
what
pages,
it is.
I know. It's kind of like Harry Potter. We have this big ladder that we can just zoom across the wall. Isn't that awesome? Okay, you guys.
Thank you so much for letting me participate in all of this. You know, you always keep thinking of me, and we're circling back and getting to have our paths cross. That's fantastic. I love it.
We always do, you guys. Markus and I, we met in Grand Junction, Colorado, when we met in 2009. And I'll go back a little bit on my history, and then we're going to hear about him. I've been in the health, wellness, fitness, medical environment for over 30 years. And so Grand Junction was kind of my home. I'd been all over the world kind of working, and Grand Junction's where I raised my kids. And I've been a trainer and a nutritionist and corporate wellness, all that fun stuff. And so when I met Markus in 2009, he was actually moving to Grand Junction, and I started his endocrinology clinic at a hospital there. So it was a brand new clinic. Here comes this physician I've never met. We're getting this office all cleaned up. So I'm going to manage this guy's clinic. In comes this German. I don't know. We clicked right away. Remember when we met in the lobby there? We clicked right away.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
You know, you always get a little nervous. You don't know who you're going to have to deal with, and it's all brand new. And, you know, it's an environmental culture shock, so to say, to come from the East Coast and hit Grand Junction, Colorado. And so, you know, not knowing everybody and stuff, it was very nice to meet you and, you know, open-armed and, you know, helping integrate, sort of thing. Yeah. You know, it was fantastic. And you have ideas and energy and everything else. So it was super easy to, you know, slide right in there and get started with the new.
Well, we always had conversations, always had conversations about some mostly Western medicine type conversations back then. But I was in health and wellness and had a big corporate wellness background up to that point. But that was my new little dabble into the true medical clinic environment. And so we always kind of dabbled about health and wellness and kind of the quality of life, more on a kind of personal type level. But then we decided to start a kind of a pilot study together with some diabetics. And so at a local gym where I was also a personal trainer, we had a little pilot study for, I think it was 18 weeks or something, where we had clients work out, and we had their nutrition. We did all their measurements, and we did pre, mid, and post blood glucose tests. We're like,
all your setup and everything else, it was amazing. I mean, it worked so nice and smoothly, except remember the very first day when that one gal stepped on and got offloaded.
People, what happened? Okay, I got to tell you this story before we get it. We're actually going to talk about the book. We're going to come back.
Oh, yeah, at some point in time.
Got to tell you this story. So Markus and I are like, we're going to do this pilot study. You know, we're going to see how patients, clients react while they're working out, and we need to carb load them, and are they going to lose weight and all this stuff. So we put our gal on the treadmill. Of course, I've got on my Captain Willms hat at that point in time. I'm like, get on there. I've got the incline going, and I'm like standing in front of her. And I'm working out Markus at the same time. So, you know, Dr. Wettstein here is like, I'm going to do this, you know, too. Lo and behold, she ends up just like you see on the internet with those memes where they're like the joke cartoon thing that comes to life, where she goes, drop score off the end of the treadmill. Remember? Oh, my God.
Man, I was scared, you know. Yeah.
I was more afraid she'd get like her shirt caught up in the, the whatever, but she survived, everybody. Thank God she'd signed a waiver.
And she did do really well too. I mean, she didn't lose a beat, she jumped right back on that thing and kept on going with the group. It was a fantastic group effort. It was a good pilot study. Yeah.
We did that pilot study back in the day, and we had a great time. We documented everything, and so we had this data. And then years later, I ended up moving out here to Florida, started my own business, did more of an individual type group coaching, wellness retreats, those types of things, and kind of went off on my way, did a radio show, those types of things I'm doing now, and busy doing that stuff. But then Markus came to me in a dream again, and I called my buddy up a couple of years ago, and I said, I want to have you on my radio show. So there's some shows out there, you guys. And we chatted about stress management, some stuff with that. And
because of the stress that I create myself, I turned pale. I was getting all excited. My heart was beating, everything. I mean, if you can't deal with stress all too well, that's what happens, so.
When we got together at that time, you were going through a tough time, and it's just like serendipitous of how that works in the phone calls, because we hadn't talked for a little bit. We stay in touch, right. But we hadn't. And right. I talked about the show, and then it turned into doing a de-stressor kind of 60-day pilot study with 30 people. And you guys, and I'm rambling, so he's going to talk. Oh, no. We took 30 people and we were like, what are your stressors? What causes this stress? How does it affect your body? And then try all these different modalities, and let's see how it affects your measurements and your quality of life and your relationships. So we did a lot of documentation and back and forth accountability through Facebook, close kind of private Facebook site and stuff. And we were like, we have enough data. We're writing a book. It was a couple of years ago.
That's right.
And then we go off on our way because life got in the way, and then I had another dream. And so a couple of months ago, I said, I'm calling my buddy up again, and we're going to write a book. I was just in a compilation book of some other authors, and I said, you know what? Markus and I are going to write a book. We're going to talk about heart and spirit and mind and body, the all things kind of wellness wheel. And we're going to seek out authors and have their stories come together. And we're going to write 3 books together. We're going to launch the first one. This is a recruitment thing. But Markus, tell people kind of a little bit about your background, because between the two of us, we have over 60 years in our field. So you've been an endocrinologist for a hot minute.
For a few years, yes. Well, I was born in Germany and lived there for the first 20 years of my life when I decided to explore a little bit. And so my path brought me over here to the United States in 1980 something. And we started our career here, really nice private business over in Hartford, Connecticut. And with all the healthcare changes and stuff like that, I decided at some point in time that I would want a change of scenery and help more people that are less fortunate than most of my patients in my private practice that I owned myself. And so I took this job over here in Grand Junction, Colorado. I'm still here with a little bit of a change in things while I was here in Colorado. And I'm still enjoying myself at this point in time. I've been practicing endocrinology, so diabetes, hypertension, glandular diseases in the body, estrogen, testosterone, all kinds of things. But it's difficult to get somebody in a specialty like mine over into a small town like Grand Junction. And so at this point in time, I'm doing more part-time because I decided that I want to balance out my life and de-stress a little bit more. And I tell you, it's made a big difference for me. I don't give gas 24/7 anymore. I just do it 2 weeks out of the month. And that creates a little bit of a void here. People are still needing endocrinologists, hard to come by. But sometimes you have to, once you figure out how stressed out you really are from all the stuff that you're doing daily, basically on autopilot, and never really think about it. And then all of a sudden it comes to health diseases and things like that. And we talked about these things. I really do believe that a lot of my patients that have diabetes have as an underlying additional factor stress. And this stress is really my pet peeve that I've been developing over the years with regards to trying to make people understand that it is really important for them to pay attention to these stressors and try and eliminate as many as possible. And at this point in time, it appears like that. Lots of people don't go to work anymore now that we have, the sort of end of the financial support for COVID. It's important for people to do, to get their money again and work, and they don't want to go back to their work.
What are they calling it? The resignation era or something, right?
Yeah, it is probably underlying, I think, a stressor for them that is tremendous enough for them to say, let's make some lifestyle changes. And they are obviously very welcome, because stress makes our life so much more miserable, and it's not necessary. If we can make changes and get life in a smooth way, then we are going to enjoy our ride a little bit more. And that's what it's all about, honestly, as far as I'm concerned.
A couple of years ago, interestingly enough, we kind of went on different paths, but then came back together in the sense of we both kind of stepped off of Western medicine a little bit. And when we came back together to do this pilot, we were chatting one night, and we just got on the topic of like crystals and chakras and, different, because I think the stress pilot that we did really did lend itself when we started talking about different modalities, and we were talking about meditating, and all of a sudden you and I are both like, huh? I mean, we're not talking about prescriptions anymore, for diabetes or thyroid stuff. And so over the past couple of years, I mean, certainly anybody that's in the medical world that's listening out there understands that it was kind of like, guru woohoo, if you talked about Eastern kind of medicine type stuff. Not that I wasn't doing some of my practice and you as well, but we really both built up that arm in our own life. And then we came back together with that. So with this book, if you guys have listened to anything that I've done before, All Things Wellness is the name of my business. It's my trademarked wellness wheel. It has 4 quadrants, and it is literally heart, mind, spirit, and body. And my reason for doing that is I believe it all comes together in kind of a wheel that's on your wellness wagon. And, no matter what your goal is, you got to kind of look at all of it to keep it going. So when we were writing this book, and I was really thinking about, I wanted it to be 4 parts. I wanted it to be like a heart section and a spirit section and a mind section and a body. And then what would that look like? And what would people write stories about? So as I was kind of processing this and talking to Markus, I was like, people can write their stories about whatever. It's going to be kind of easy to put it in the different categories anyways. Mm-hmm. Like if you had a story out there, let's say hypothetically, it was a medical, miraculous medical, you had a trials and tribulation with a thyroid disease, or you got bit by a tick, or, something happened in the medical arena, you have a story to tell. You could have walked into Markus's office and maybe been his patient. You could have showed up with me talking about sleep or lack of nutrition, or you needn't have the motivation to exercise. You have a story to tell. You might come to us saying, you know what, I haven't exercised in forever. I've had a bunch of injuries and I'm having a hard time getting motivated again. You have a story to tell. Mm-hmm. You might have a shitty mindset because of COVID, and you've been home and you haven't had a sense of belonging, and you've been depressed or suicidal. You have a story to tell. Our whole point with this is, whether it's tears or fears, whatever it was, empowerment, I have learned, and I think Markus is learning too, that I judge myself more than anyone. Mm-hmm. And I seek perfection before I take certain steps.
Right.
And often that makes me come up a little shy, because I'm afraid of, what if I get a C? or what if I fail? Then I'm not going to try at all. I can say I tried. When it comes to writing, you guys, we will help you. You do not have to be an author. We are working with a publishing company. You do not need to find a publisher. You do not need to find an editor. It does not have to be beautiful. You could go back to an old journal. Maybe you're a journaler and that was your modality of getting rid of stress. Find your story. Mm-hmm. I'm going to show you in a little bit how you learn more and how you submit stuff to us and how this looks like when you're a published author. Pretty freaking cool. And how, you know, how you can move forward. Maybe it's a dream of yours. Maybe it's, you just want to share a story because you want to write and have your grandchild read a story. But I know when I first talked to Markus, this is why I'm saying this. I know him so well. I could see him going, write a story. Oh my gosh, be published. People read it. What am I going to write about?
That's right.
There, right. And I'm there too. And I was thinking about what story would I write first? Because we're going to do 3 of these suckers. And I remembered one of the stories you and I were talking about. You're going to laugh at. We were in a break room when I was working with you at the medical clinic. We were talking about nutrition. And it was when we were getting ready to do this pilot study at Gold's Gym at the gym. Shout out to Gold's. And we were talking about different nutrition and carbs and proteins and fat and how they're burned and where they're stored. And I even remember where you were sitting. And I remember you kind of looking at me and going, physicians don't learn enough of this. Like, we just plowed through kind of a course. Right. And you and I went into a lengthy conversation even about that. And I thought, ooh, maybe that's kind of a cool story that I might write in this book, just about, we don't know what we don't know. And does it mean it's right anyway? Does any specific diet mean it's right anyway?
Right. Well, you know, I have, been a scientist all my life, right? And that is, I thought, was the easiest way, because everything is predictable, everything is calculable. You should be able to just put a couple of grams of carbs with some fat and some protein, you know, and that's it. And you got everything that you need. Well, physics and natural sciences and everything else have moved forward and gotten into that quantum physics stuff. And believe it or not, there is a field now that's called quantum medicine. And it basically tries, you know, we got the body and the mind pretty much taken care of, so to say. If anything happens to those two in a major way, we can help out. But when it comes to the heart and the spirit, not so good. And that is where I saw failure with regards to my approach to patients and how to deal with their disease, for instance, diabetes, you know, which is a big topic for a lot of people. And it is really something that you have to involve the heart and the spirit. You can't just do mind and body. It's still being done out there. You go to the doc, that's what you get, you know. Right. But that's not enough for me and my personal satisfaction. I want to have a more holistic approach and integrate the spirit and the heart into the discussion with my patients about how to be able to improve and cope with this, you know. And so that's where I am right now, dabbling into quantum medicine to try and get a little bit farther with regards to our approach to help patients, you know.
I think that that's what is going to make this, you know, I keep thinking about this. I've wanted to write a book like this for like 2 decades. And it goes back to Chicken Soup of the Soul book. Oh, yeah. And for many things. Number one, it aligns with my personality and my busy schedule, right? So I might have the book in the doctor's office and be able to get through 1 or 2 stories. Or I might be able to go to bed at night and get through 1 or 2 stories instead of a novel before I nod off. And what I always loved about it is every one of the stories, no matter what the story, whether it was a financial burden, a medical story, someone found their dog, or their brother passed on and the spirit spoke to him, you resonate almost with every story, the emotion that it puts. So I always had this pull. And my initial intent was like, I'm going to do that with clients I've worked with. Like, I want like to go back to them almost like a testimony and say, what have you learned about your all things wellness, your all things well-being in your life? So I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And then time passed. Then when I thought of you, I thought, oh, we got the same kind of approach with patients. Like, we've got people that have worked with you that have walked in the door and said, please check my thyroid. Please amp up my testosterone because my sexual ability at home has been sacrificed. All these things that you deal with. I thought, we got patients, we got clients. And then I realized it's restricting us. It's not fair. And that's why I really wanted to move forward and allow a forum for every single person. We all have a story to tell and be transparent and authentic. And the way we're going to roll this book out is Markus and I are going to write our own story. And then we're going to do kind of a little bit of a take on it. Like, we're going to look back at the authors and spend some time just looking at the stories and giving a little input on your story. We're not just going to write the book and toss it out there. Right. And we're going to go with brothers and sisters and patients and clients. And you could be a doctor or a lawyer, Indian chief, anything. And we have an author's call out right now. We're only going to take 30 people for each of our books. And you get to say, that you're published, and you get to say that you've made a difference. And we're going to do a lot of the work for you.
Because we're restricting to like 2,000 words, right? If you have a whole lot more to say, there's volume 2 and volume 3. I mean, we are doing this to try and make sure that everybody is covered.
Right. Yeah. And we're giving them an opportunity for bios and their social media links and things like that. There is a small investment, as always, because we're fronting all sorts of things, because we want to give you an opportunity to not have to write your story and turning it into a publisher and get denied. It costs thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to get somebody to publish your book, and can be very defeating. I tried to publish a book 20 years ago in 2001, and I think I sent it out to 200 people. It was a children's book, and it just gets very, very defeating. And also, on the other hand, there's some companies out there that are taking any book, just anything. And we don't want you to be just a part of anything. We want you to be proud. We want you to be interviewed. We have all sorts of offerings on my website that I'm going to take you to in a second. But it gives you an opportunity if you've ever wanted to be an author. And I think, Markus, what came up last night, I realized that if we have an author who doesn't really realize they're an author, once they do this first book, they may have their future book started. Because then if you look at it, coming into the second book and going, so say, for instance, somebody had a near-death experience, or they had a broken relationship and they're stronger than ever. And it wakes up all sorts of stuff in their heart, and they have to go through this awakening journey. Then all of a sudden they're publishing their own book 2 or 3 years from now, and we are like, good job. Right. And I had James Redfield, who wrote Celestine Prophecy, on my radio show a couple of nights ago. And he spoke to the fact that you did with quantum medicine and just how we have to really come together and stop worrying about the words of collective consciousness and serendipity and all that and synchronicities. It is what it is, what it is. Religion only does so much. Science only does so much. There's something in the energy field. It's time we chat about it.
Together, that's right,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very amazing, because if we are doing this with 3 different books, right, then any author who participates in 3 basically already has half of their own book that they can publish if they feel so down the line, just buff it up a little bit and so on. So this is a good starter opportunity for somebody who also thinks, I never really thought about it, and it's so there's so many hurdles here. And the point is that I really appreciate how you just removed like 90% of all those things, I mean, yeah, the financial aspect to a small degree in comparison to a whole book is just a small contribution to the whole thing, but at least you can get your feet wet and get started on the process and see if you're enjoying this, and then move on from there if that's what you wish to do.
And we're sharing in the process. Like Markus and I are co-authoring the book, but as 30 contributing authors, you also have an opportunity to choose to be on the cover of the book. A cover of a book, a published book with 29 other people. And we have an amazing person that is going to be a forward of this book that I'm not going to say who's writing the forward yet. And I'm telling you, the amount of opportunities that are popping up just with me telling a story in a book that I just wrote, the interviews, the questions, the people contacting me. I wrote a story about being misdiagnosed with hepatitis C, people reaching out with misdiagnoses they've had through medical tests, the abortion question, like, oh, you shouldn't have Tanner because you have this disease. And then 10 years later, I found out I didn't have it. So those types of transparencies and being authentic and stepping into yourself, but telling that story on these other radio shows that people are coming to. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect somebody to come out and connect. And that's going to happen to you. And you just said that, you could potentially be ready to be an author. But also, I have a couple people who have said, I just want to be a blogger. I just want to write short stories. So I'm also offering to you guys as part of this package that blog on my website. Let me help you blog in other places. So maybe you just are a short story kind of gal or guy.
Well, that's good info. Yeah, that's nice to hear.
This doesn't have to be, we are taking out a lot of the steps, and that's what I love, because it's scary as hell to find people you trust, people that aren't going to just take your money. We are going to get this done for you, and we are going to help you. And I'm just excited to be the vessel and be a part of it and work with you again.
That's right. Yes. There's always a good reason, right?
Yeah, there is always a good reason.
That's fantastic. No,
how are you feeling when you think about, just from a personal level, being part of this and telling some stories in the next, have you spent some time thinking about that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is a commitment, and you do have to spend some time. And since I've never been an author and I never really wrote any books or anything like that, I can tell you that, boy, things morph. I write something down, I put it aside, I read through it, and then it slowly starts developing into something. So, and then you get other ideas, and it branches off, and it's a very interesting concept to go through to become an author. And I'll be proud as hell of myself. If my mom were still here, she would be too.
And she's watching over you. And that's kind of interesting to step into. And just as a quick share, James Redfield actually shared that on the show. And a story that he recently wrote is, here's this guy who sold 23 million copies of Celestine Prophecy. And it was written in, he made a movie out of it. And he's written multiple books about it still, and he's writing again. But he started out with no big marketing plan because he was embarrassed to say he was an author. He was embarrassed to step into, he didn't want it to be rich. He just wanted to share what his calling was, like, oh my gosh, wow, I just have this thing and I need to do something with this thing.
Yep.
And his first books, back in the day, he wrote it in 96, I think, is when it eventually got to be bigger. And he went to bookstores and handed a copy to the manager. And then he had a bunch of books, and he said, whoever is in this store needs a copy of this book right now. And he walked around and he just handed books out, and then he'd go to the next store. And he didn't seek to be what he is. And I thought that he just said that to me 2 days ago. And I thought, oh my gosh, that is like the most beautiful thing you do, is to lead into telling your story with the intent of sharing it to help someone else, not judgment.
Right.
I'm probably talking to myself here as I share this, but
I mean, you know, that's basically my motivation as well, you know. I mean, we got to be honest with ourselves. At some point in time, we're going to get the ticket to the other side, you know. And when that happens, it's nice to share what you have accumulated over the years. And in the beginning, I always thought that's just my personal experience, and nobody else gives a hoot about what I have to say, until you actually tell the story, and then people say, wow, yeah, that's exactly it, you know. And so for me, as a physician, as a doctor, yeah, I like to help people, and I think this is another way of making that happen. Hopefully somebody will pick up the book when we publish it, and get something out of my story that furthers them into the right direction. You know,
Absolutely. And I can tell you that, you guys, we're going to be so supportive that it almost is going to be a first come, first serve situation, because if you're authentic and you are truly sharing and you're going deep enough and you're descriptive and you've had some family and friends look at it and go, you know what, you did a pretty good job and you're really sharing a lot. If we can get that vibe off you, we've got editors. We got that taken care of for you. We're going to help you and pull some words out, some adjectives, like tell us how you really felt. So you don't have to worry about that. But the 30 slots are going to fill up fast, and you can also book ahead to be in all 3 books. So if you're forward thinking and you're like, wow, I almost have 3 volumes of my story, if that's how that evolves. We have a tight turnaround because most books will take a year to get out. Markus and I want to write all 3 books in 2022. And this first book's coming out April 1st, because it ain't no Fool's Day. Ain't no fool. So I guess what I'm saying is I want people to get excited when we accept it and the publishers look at it, but I don't want anyone to be discouraged when they say, you know, oh my gosh, I can't get these to words. And call us, email us, and just say, I can't get it to paper. You know, there are a lot of people that they rather talk about it, their auditory versus the visual thing, pen to paper, and just say, let's just make this happen. Mm-hmm. So again, the main thing, I just want to give you guys just a little peek. So let me just do a very quick share with you, and then we're going to let you go. We are going to do a live. We're going to go live next week. I'll give you plenty of notice on that, so you can come on with us live and ask some questions in the comment sections, and we can answer them live with you, which will be fun. We're going to do several of those, but we have a tight deadline on this book. So let's go ahead and take a peek at what it all looks like. So I'm going to be directing you guys to my website. It's peggywillms.com, allthingswellness.com. It's also going to take you to the same spot. When you get there, underneath the authors tab, that's where you're going to be. You bet. And when you become an author, look where you're going to hover, right on the media page, because guess what we're also going to do? We're going to have all sorts of radio shows and blogs that you can do. And so right here on the media page, you're going to be featured on here. And you're going to be linked to YouTube channels. Super exciting, hey? But the main thing we're going to let you know is that you're going to come to the authors page, and we want you to tell a story. And this is the actual cover. This is a mock cover right now. But if you can see, that's going to be the name of the book, the 4-fold formula. And I'll tell you about that in a second. For all things wellness, because you're going to get well, help others get well, share your story, true stories of the heart, spirit, mind, and body. And the forward's going to be right here. We're going to be very honored to have our forward written. And guess what? If you decide you want to be on the cover, 16 names of the 30 authors are going on the cover. That's it, my loves. And so when you come onto this author's page, it's just going to give you a little bit of information about some stories that you might want to write. These are just examples within each of the categories: heart, spirit, mind, and body. That's going to kind of be the 4 chapters. And again, these are just examples. And then you're going to click this Learn More button, and it's just going to take you through a bunch of more information that I'll go over in a lot more detail in the next coming weeks, but like why you would want to, kind of what the investment is, what you get out of it, the interviews that you get, your bios, all sorts of stuff. and you'll see some pricing and how to go ahead and do that. I don't want to go into too long today. We're going to have more conversations about this in the next week or so, but we have a 12/20 deadline on the early bird special.
Mm-hmm.
We have a 1/20 deadline on, if we have spots left, on the drop dead.
Let's just make sure that they know that if you sign up, you're not committed, right?
To the story until, if you sign up,
Mm-hmm.
we are going to help you get, trust me, we're going to really help you get your story published. So what you're doing is you're sealing the deal on your spot. You're sealing the deal on your spot. You're going to decide whether you want to just submit a story or you want to submit a story and be on the cover.
So it's you have to be ready to submit your
It's
book
a commitment.
Yeah,
it's an investment. Yeah, so 12/20 you commit to your spot. If there's anything left, you have till January 20. But the good thing is the story is not due. You got to get it in as soon as you can so we can edit the heck out of it and make it gorgeous, because all the stories are due by January 30th. Because again, we have a tight turnaround, lots of advertising, lots of pre-launches and pre-orders, because it kicks off April 1st.
Exciting.
Yeah. Cheers. Cheers.
Amazing.
Yeah. So you guys, thank you for listening to this through. And you know what, buddy, I'm honored to do this with you. It's going to be so much fun. And like you said, we're going to meet lots of people. What's that?
I'm so glad you thought of me. Yes. I'm hounding you in your dreams, huh? That's what's happening. I got
my soul brother. I don't know what we were in a past life, but there was some connection, maybe tons of times. But we are in your corner, and I can't wait to hear some stories and get this off the ground.
I mean, all the support people that you surrounded yourself with, that's really incredible. I mean, I got to meet a few of them because we did the radio show in 2019. But I mean, that has expanded tremendously. So the amount of resources at your disposal and where you can point people to if they want to go one particular, like you said, blog versus bona fide one single author book or whatever, radio shows, it's all there. You are incredible.
Well, thank you, but as I negate everything you said, I will say firsthand that I operated always from helping other people. I got a story, I'll loop back around, let everybody go. But I always stepped forward into my lane going, I want to help people. And then I hoped I did. And then I just kind of moved on because I knew I needed to help the next person. But I never came from a place of really realizing or wondering if that person would ever come back and say, oh, you made a difference, or like that really meant a lot. Mm-hmm. That changed for me when I started my own business in 2016, because I said, I'm not doing that anymore. Mm-hmm. I want to go deeper. I want to know if I made a difference in their life, their spouse's life, their work, their children. And then I wanted to meet and collaborate with others. I didn't want to do my own marketing, my own HR, and my own exhausting shit. I wanted to, and that's what I guess, even with this authorship and becoming an author, you guys, is that you don't know right now what you don't know. Book signings and being called and just meeting friends and social groups and just those types of things are, be ready for it, because you don't, I mean, it just, if you're coming from the right place, that shit just happens.
And it did to you, yes.
It did to both of us. We're together, we're a team. And so you guys out there, we'll be coming back at you. You'll see lots of kind of author calls on this, story calls on this. And we're really glad that you joined us tonight. And
for anybody who wants to just click out of this and go to your website, what was it again?
Look at you with your marketing. I'm just like, I gotta help people and I forget to tell them how. Jesus. Okay. First of all, if you have any questions, you can email me at peggy@allthingswellness.com, or you can message me on Facebook. The main place to find out more information, it comes in one place, allthingswellness.com or Peggy Willms, it's 2 L's, Willms.com, comes to the same place. I will reach out to Markus if you have any specific questions with him. I'll link him on all my social media, and we will figure out if there's any confusion or hesitancy that you have. I will pick you up and we'll do this. So,
All right.
Okay. All right, you guys, we will see you soon. Markus, buddy, till next time, America.
Absolutely. It's exciting.
Exciting. All